Hello. I hope this question's of benefit, and it's a little difficult. My father is dying of Alzheimer's, and it's been going on maybe 6 or 7 years. And
we would put that in different terms. We would say, my father is making his transition from physical into non-physical, and Alzheimer's is the tool that he is engaged in order to make it possible and easy.
And he's probably having an okay time. It's my mom I'm worried about. I don't mean to make...
Well, you know, that's almost what everybody said. You see, you train each other to worry more about what each other want than what you yourself want. And that's why someone has to resort to Alzheimer's when they get ready to go. In other words, your mother would say, I need you in order to feel good. And so feel the entrapment of that. When someone says, my happiness is dependent upon you, and you really love someone and you want them to be happy, and they've convinced you that their happiness is dependent upon you, but you've got these things you can't control, like you can't stay in your body forever. You can't remain physically focused and happily creating forever. In other words, it's why you make your reemergence. So your father did a brilliant thing, just began his withdrawal, because otherwise he won't be able to make his transition, and his transition is inevitable. Right. So you understand that. Yes. And we just want to get that basis down. So now, what about your mother?
Well, I want to help, and it seems like everything I try to do makes it worse.
Well, you know, you've got, see it like it is itis. Almost everybody does. In other words, most everybody offers most of their vibration from what they are observing. So we certainly understand when you're up close to something that is so uncomfortable for your mother that then it makes you uncomfortable. You could get Alzheimer's. Or
I've kind of been doing that.
Well, you know, think about what unconditional love really is. So you look at a condition that's just awful, and when you look at it, it's nothing like what's over here in your vibrational escrow, so looking at it just tears you apart. So you have to find a way of not looking at it. That's what Alzheimer's is. It's finding a way of distracting yourself from the thing that's tearing you apart. Well, so maybe we should call this art of Alzheimer's instead of art of allowing. Because basically we're teaching you the same thing. We've never known anyone who could just not think about something unless you lose your ability to focus or unless you slumber. But you can think of something else. And that's what the whole point of everything that we're talking about is. We're trying to get you to train yourself into that downstream way of thinking. So whenever we talk with someone about their relationship with someone else, we always emphasize in the beginning of our explanation that we're not going to talk to you about things that you could do to change your mother's experience so that you can feel better. Okay. Because that's conditional again, and it's impossible. We don't think that we could coach you enough, that you could coach her enough, that she could behave in a way that you would feel better. We do think that we can coach you in a way that you can feel better regardless of what she does. And that really is the key. And we think that this whole experience with your father's Alzheimer and an understanding of why he took that route is really a strong catalyst in all of this, don't you think?
Yes.
So give us an example of something that you witness with your mother that makes you feel uncomfortable, and we'll show you what we would do in that situation to try to make it a more downstream experience for yourself.
So I could give an example of a situation. He's very agitated, and she just gets worn out, and she's at the end of her rope, and she calls me and just tells me this, and they live about an hour away, and I drove up, and when I got there, she was more upset that I had gone to the trouble of trying to be there.
All right, now it gets a little complicated, but let us explain something to you. So the reason that your father is agitated is exactly what we were talking about with the autistic children. The reason that he's agitated is because he's gone to a lot of trouble to withdraw himself. In other words, so you look at a situation, you feel awful. You train yourself into not looking at it and you feel better. And then someone keeps saying, come back, focus here with me. I need you to look here where I am. And so it's that determination to not let somebody have the withdrawal of Alzheimer's that makes them frustrated. So your father found a way that makes him feel better. Your mother can't bear it, so she does everything in her power to try to get him to be more like he used to be, which, when she stays at it incessantly, makes him then come back enough that he does feel the split in his energy, and then he feels uncomfortable, and then she focuses upon that which splits her energy, and then you focus on all of that which splits your energy, and then you take action before you come into alignment, which amplifies her split energy.
Yes.
It's just a chain of pain that keeps on giving, you see. And someone has to be the one that breaks the chain of pain. And that someone is the person who decides, I'll line up energy and then I'll take action. I'll line up energy and then I'll take action. So you get the phone call from your mother and she's extremely distressed and you're only an hour away and you want to go and soothe it, but you know that this is an condition that you really can't soothe. You can't give your mother what she needs so that she will feel better. There isn't anything that you can do that's going to make it better. So going there, right here, right now, is not necessarily going to make it better. And then you remind yourself, in any case, I can't make it better until I feel better. So what can I think that's going to get me to turn downstream? So then you begin thinking some thoughts like, well, Alzheimer's is sort of a way that many people make their transition, and it's not such a bad thing. And I know it's hard on my mother, and I don't want things to be hard on her, but she sort of has made things be hard on her as long as I've known her. She's sort of been somebody that made things hard on her and hard on everybody else. And so there's nothing really new going on here tonight. It's not that much harder on her than it's ever been before. And so she'll live through this. In fact, as I think about these streams where I could be pointed upstream and downstream, half the time she's doing things that for me would be totally upstream, and for her, most of them are downstream. In other words, when she feels like she feels, many of the things that she does gives her a feeling of relief, where for me, it turns me totally upstream. And this very well could be one of those situations. And me jumping in the middle of it and getting turned upstream, and then her then seeing me upstream really turns her upstream. That's what happened, isn't it? So don't want that. So everything will be all right here. They've got this thing going on, and me rushing in and trying to save it is not going to make any real difference. But I could go. It would make me feel a little better if I went and let them know that I love them. And I'm not going to go up there and try to change anything. I'm just going to let them know I love them. I'm going to get tuned in, tapped in, turned on. Maybe I'll stop and pick up something that we all like to eat. I'm just going to show up like a fresh breath of air. I'm not showing up as the savior that's going to change anything, because they don't want to be changed. They've been trying to change each other as long as I've known them and haven't made any headway. And I gave up on that a long time ago. And now I understand it's not my right or my responsibility or my ability to change anything. So I'm just going to go. It might be fun to just show up there in the middle of something that I can feel is sort of disruptive and see if my centered beingness can sort of bring things back into alignment. So let's see. Let me make a list of things about them that's going to bring me into alignment. So then start writing about your father and say, you brilliant bugger, you figured out the best way to make this happen easily for you. And kudos to you. Under the conditions and circumstances, I think that you've made a very good plan. And it's not a plan that's so different than a lot of us do. We all withdraw. And you've just started your withdrawal experience before you actually withdrew completely. And there isn't anything wrong with that. Actually, people talk about these long goodbyes, and I'm sort of appreciating this long goodbye because I'm sort of getting used to the idea of all of it. And you've always been very deliberate about what you do as you're writing about your father, and I'm appreciating it. And we'll all adapt to this, and it's just fine. And you can make your transition whenever you're ready, and I'll be all right with that. And meanwhile, I'm glad you're there because it's fun. There are many things that I can still converse with you about, and there's many aspects of your beingness that are still beneficial to me. And so I approve of and applaud this method of transition that you are upon. And then take your mother's page and begin writing about her. her and say, you're doing exactly what I would expect you to do under these conditions. You've always been a sort of control freak that's been trying to make everything work out just the way you want it to work out. And there isn't anything wrong with that. There's been so many things that you have added so much power and strength to. You are sort of the center pin for all of us. And to ask you to stop being that would be asking the impossible. And so I don't need you to be any different than you are. And all this is an exaggerated version of what you've always been. Dad's always tried to ignore you, and you've never liked it. And this is just an exaggerated version of all of this. And understanding all of this, I can handle all of that. So I think I'm going to drive myself up, and I'm going to visit with you, and I'm going to focus upon your positive aspects the whole way, and I'll stop and get something that we'll all enjoy, and I'll stay there for an hour or two, or maybe even I'll stay the night, and I'll feel better for being there, because I know that when I get tuned in, tapped in, turned on, and I'm in alignment with who I am, that now the source within me is looking at your situation. And when the source within me is looking at your situation, nobody's doing anything wrong. When the source within me is looking at your situation, it's not as sticky and as tense and as uncomfortable as it looks when I'm not looking through the eyes of source. I feel so much better. In fact, I'm looking forward to coming to see you. It'll be fun to see you through the eyes of source, which I have now achieved, because I'm not used to seeing you through the eyes of source. I'm used to you dragging me off into that place where you are, and then we're all not disconnected, and we're all sort of banging around together, and it will be quite pleasant for me to see you through the eyes of source. So here I come, I'm on my way. And when you get there, all tuned in, tapped in, turned on. Your mother doesn't want your pity or your sympathy. She doesn't want you to be upset. She wants you to feel happy. So there you are, happy even under these conditions. Happy even under these conditions, because you're not wrestling against the death idea. You know that that's inevitable. That's a stupid one to wrestle against, isn't it? Oh, you do that to each other. The day you're born, you start worrying about dying. Watch out, that could kill you. Watch out, that could kill you. Watch out, that could kill you. We say, it doesn't make any difference what kills you. Something's going to kill you. You're going to croak sooner or later, but you worry so much about what it will be, you don't let yourself enjoy the moment. We want you to enjoy the moment right up until you make your transition, you see. And so now you're all tuned in, tapped in, turned on. You're feeling good. You've got this death thing in proper proximity. You understand why your father does what he does. You're pleased about that. You understand why your mother does what she does. It's just what they've always done, and they're just doing it in a more exaggerated fashion. And there you are, and you're not freaked out about it. You're just watching them do what they do, and you're smiling like you often did as a child as you walked away and knew that there wasn't anything that you could do about it. And there you are, offering now. And this is the thing that we so want you to hear. Do you know what children bring to a home? Children are the ones that bring the well-being to the home. They're the ones that bring the perspective of source to the home. It takes a long time before life sort of beats that out of you. And here you are, not a child anymore, but you've brought yourself back into vibrational alignment. It's like you're being born again. It's like you're being born this day. You're pure positive energy. You're jumping right into their nest with all of this good feeling, well-being vibration that the babies of your planet bring. In other words, do you know babies are being born into war zones and they're not even worried about it? Do you know that babies are being born into environments that so many of you are fussing and worrying about, and they bring their feeling of well-being with them, you see? So you just got tuned in, tapped in, turned on long after you were born, but you can bring that same feeling of well-being to surround you. Oh, that's very good. Good time for lunch. We are complete.